Welcome back to the Green Yard. It's a beautiful July morning here in Phoenix, Arizona, Zone 9B. We actually have a little bit of cloud cover today, which is amazing. Really exciting. And I'm over here in the food forest part of the Green Yard. For those of you that haven't joined us before, food forest part of the Green Yard, we have a whole bunch of fruiting and flowering, tropical trees, vines, and we're starting to add in now our herbaceous layer, our shrub layer, right? I'll talk about kind of the layers of the food forest here in a second, but around me I have our beautiful soursop tree. This guy has been in the ground for a year and a half. Has put on about 2 feet of growth, which is really impressive, and is really loving its spot here. Big papaya on your right. Can't quite see the leaves, but you can see the trunk there. Jaboticaba is right underneath the camera. Have our sandal tree back here as well. That's important for why we're planting our plant that I'm going to talk about here in a second in this location. Michele alba, loquat, some of our bananas here as well. So we're over in kind of this really tucked in part of the food forest, and we're here for our planting video today. So this is a red button ginger, which is a part of the shrub, the herbaceous layer of a food forest. So in a food forest we have a canopy, which is generally a large tree. For us, it is our huge, giant 60 to 80-year-old mulberry tree that we have up there. That is going to be our canopy layer. Then we have our fruit trees, right? So our fruit trees are all of our trees that I just mentioned. Our papaya, our soursop, our santal, and so on and so forth. And then below that fruiting, flowering tree layer, we have our herbaceous layer and our shrub layer. And those are going to be our bushes, our edible bushes, our herbs. So since our food forest here started to become a little bit more established, it's time for me, in my opinion, and the way that I'm doing my food forest, it's time to start adding in our herbaceous layer. So I have right here our red button ginger. Red button ginger is native to the Americas, Latin America, and it's a type of herb, and it's really cool because it makes these awesome red cone-shaped flowers. Now this is different than like our shampoo ginger. There's a lot of different varieties of ginger. This is a little bit different, but this is actually edible. So this is more of an ornamental ginger, but it does have these edible flowers, and you can pick them up, eat them, and apparently they're very sweet tasting. So I'm planting in here. I'm trying to combine our herbaceous layer with some edible aspects as well, even though this is an ornamental plant. So I'm really excited about this guy. I've been looking at him for a very long time, wanting to add him to the food forest part of the Green Yard. And so I picked this spot here. Let's talk a little bit about why I picked this exact location for our red button ginger. Here we go. Flowers are just so pretty and so unique too. I really am excited. I do plan on getting a shampoo ginger in the future too, but for now we're going to start with our red button ginger. It's a beautiful soursop tree as well. It's really been taking off this year. It took off last year too, but ever since the spring it's doing really well. Then of course we have our santal tree. It's grown about a foot so far this year too. So the reason why I picked this spot is because we are very protected over here in this part of the food forest. We have all of our big fruiting and flowering trees, and then of course we have our giant mulberry tree as well. That's going to be here to protect us too. And so our red button ginger is one of those more tropical plants. It does require that protection, and when I mean protection, I mean that microclimate where it gets shade in the afternoon. So it needs that afternoon shade after about 10 o'clock or so. And then it does need that cold protection. So I'm going to end up putting it right here between our soursop tree and our santal tree. And the reason why is I want to add to this herbaceous layer here and start adding to it. But also I'm putting it here because both of these trees, our santal tree as well as our soursop tree, need cold protection. So anything below about 50 degrees, they need to be covered, protected, supply that external heat source, at least while they're young, till they get a little bit more acclimated, although it's probably going to be their entire life here in the food forest part of the green yard. And our red button ginger is no different. It does not like our cold weather here. So it does need that protection. So putting it here in the middle of our two cold sensitive trees allows me to cover all three plants with one frost fabric. And if you're wondering how I do that, you can look at our video about how to cold protect our tropical fruit trees that we did last winter. Both these trees made it through one of the coldest winters we've had on record, which was last year. And so I'm hoping that this spot helps our red button ginger do well also and thrive in this area. So let's go ahead and let's start planting our red button ginger in this spot. Here we go. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do here is move our red button ginger out of the way. I'm actually gonna put it over here to the side by our papaya. And then I'm going to grab my mulch fork, and I'm going to go ahead and start moving this mulch out of the way here. I think I'm going to plant it back a little bit to try to not mess too much with our root system that these trees have established so far, since I will be planting it and interplanting it with our more established fruiting trees here. I don't really want to mess with their roots. I'd rather them live and survive. I'll probably hit some of their roots, but at this point in time, that's just something that's going to happen as I put in this new red button ginger. But I am going to try to plant it back a little bit further, try to put it in this space back here between our giant mulberry tree, our soursop, and our santal. So let's go ahead and start moving that mulch and dig that hole. Here we go. So went ahead and dug our hole here. There are lots of roots in here, lots of really thin roots, so I'm assuming that these are coming from our soursop or our santal or even our monstera that we have back here. I tried really hard not to break any of them. Of course I had to break a couple, but I tried really hard to leave them intact, like this big giant one here, still intact. And there's a lot more down in there that are intact too. One of the really cool things about this area here is that the soil is broken down. It looks really, really good. So this area has been under mulch for about 3 years, but if you remember, if you watch our very recent planting of our carambola tree, our starfruit tree, that wasn't the case. When I dug over there, the soil was not very broken down. It was really, really our clay soil there. And so I had to mix in our nursery soil with that clay soil to basically bring it to this color, this texture that I'm getting here already with this mulch that's been under the ground. So I'm wondering if part of the reason why it's so good is because we have these 3 trees here that have helped to break it down as well. Over there where I planted our starfruit, our carambola tree, there's no trees there. It's just under mulch. There's nothing there to have any roots going through, anything else. So I'm wondering if that plays a role in it. I don't know. But it's interesting to see how this is amazing soil. Look how good this soil is. It's like the soil I buy from the nursery. I just dug it up from right here. So I'm wondering if that plays a role in how our soil breaks down, and those microbes, those insects, those animals that are breaking down that mulch, turning it into that organic matter. I'm not sure. It's pretty cool though. So let's go ahead and take this red button ginger out of the pot. I'm pretty sure it's rooted out very, very well, but we're gonna find out in a second. I'm just gonna take it out of the pot, put it right in its hole here. So let's go ahead, let's start squishing the pot a little bit here. We're gonna squish all the sides. Not as rooted out as I would like it to be, but it's not bad either. Let's go ahead and grab this guy. Oh yeah, there we go. Yep, that's pretty good. So one of the really cool things about kind of it already being broken down like this is I didn't have to mix anything in, which means I didn't have to make the hole as deep. So I just have to make sure that the root flare is still showing, even on our herbaceous, our shrubs. We have to make sure the root flare is still showing, and it looks like that hole is a little bit too deep. So I'm going to add in a little bit more of our soil back in, just a little bit, and now we're going to take it and put it right in the hole there. Actually, I'm going to dig it out a little bit more. It's taller than I thought it was. So let's dig it out. Try not to break any of these roots that I worked so hard not cutting earlier. So let's move these out of the way. Lots of roots in there. We're going to try to leave them intact as best as possible and put in our red button ginger. That looks really good right there. Look at that. Perfect. Fits in really well with our other trees. Let's just add in our mixed soil back into our hole here. All this really great broken down wood chips. It's really great broken down soil. Gonna throw it back in. Got all these critters in here breaking down, eating that mulch. Look at this mulch here too. Even better. Just gonna throw it back in. I'm gonna make sure that that root flare is still showing, which it is. I'm gonna compact it a little bit just so that I know that it's in there correctly. And then we're gonna bring back a lot of this mulch, right? We've got all this really broken down mulch. We're gonna bring it back in, not only for our ginger, but also for our other trees, right? Our santal and our soursop tree. Got a big worm right here kicking butt. Look at him. He's awesome. Wiggling away, breaking down all of that mulch. Add a little bit more in, and then kind of smooth this over here with our other trees. All right, perfect. All right, so our red button ginger is in the ground. It's looking really, really good, really happy. In terms of amendments that I added right now, you know, I didn't have to amend any of the soil currently around it. One of the nice things with planting in an established food forest already is that our soil, I've already been adding that sulfur for a while. I've already been changing the pH of that soil. Red button ginger, just like our soursop and our santal tree here, do require that lower pH. Remember, here in Phoenix we have 8 to 8.5, so we're really alkaline. Most of our tropical trees require an acidic soil in order to be able to take up those nutrients that we give to them. Red button ginger is no different, so I want to add in even some extra sulfur to get it started. But the nice thing is that I've been adding sulfur to this soil for a long time. You can see our other trees are thriving here, so I know that soil pH is doing a good job and probably where it needs to be. But I still want to start this guy off on the right foot by adding in some more agricultural sulfur, which I just sprinkle around the tree, shake around the tree there. I am going to water this in next, and go ahead and give the guy a good soaking of water as well. You'll see here, so we have 3 blossoms already on here, 3 buttons. This button right here actually has some of those flowers on it. Flowers dried out while it was waiting for me to plant it, but what you would do is you just pick that flower off, and then you would eat that flower, and they're supposed to be very sweet, very delicious there. So hoping to be able to do a video on not only growing our red button ginger in Phoenix in Zone 9B, but also harvesting our red button ginger as well in Zone 9B, those edible flowers. So really excited for this guy. I'm excited to start adding to that herbaceous, that shrub layer of our food forest as well. Really kind of make this more of a complete food forest. And our shrub layers help too with adding to that biodiversity. This is a great pollinator. It brings in a lot of pollinators, so it attracts a lot of those pollinators in as well with those flowers. So I'm hoping to bring in some additional pollinators to help pollinate our loquat or Michaelia alba, even though it doesn't need to be pollinated. Hopefully our soursop and our santal in the future. That would be awesome. So I don't know, it's a beautiful, beautiful plant. I'm really excited for it, and I can't wait to update you guys here shortly. As always, live green, plant lots, and of course have fun. We'll see you next time.